Hi, welcome to the Thought Criminals with Ralph Benko and me, your co-host, where we are named after George Orwell's 1984 because we tell you things the establishment does not want you to know. So you know me, I am a longtime contributor to Townhall, and Ralph is a weekly columnist at Newsmax. He's co-author of the Communist Manifesto and co-founder and chair of the 1,000-person Facebook group Capitalist League. So
quite a personal privilege, 183,000 follower Capitalist League. So not too shabby, huh?
And getting close to the millions. So
we will get to the millions next year.
So today we are going to discuss an article I wrote for Townhall about how marriage is declining, what that means, and it's going to be this book that I just read where they basically show how the church has been neglecting marriage, and that's the reason we could actually do better if the church, paid more attention. And then we're going to move on to
hold up the book. Do you have the book? Hold it up. Show our listeners what it looks like, unless it has a naughty picture on the cover.
Ralph, we are in the era of 2021 journalism. Do you know how I do all my book reviews now?
How?
They're all ebooks. I don't buy books anymore.
Oh, how quaint. Okay, listen, that being said, your column, Rachel Alexander, was inspired. It was just brilliant. It was no BS. You dug right down into one of the fundamental, but almost completely neglected and orphaned social morbidities that is occurring now. And by the way, I know the backstory of this, and you don't know that I know the backstory of this. But what you did with this column was so hard-hitting and was so interesting and was so true that this is a column. If I only had the address for the Pulitzer Prize Committee, I would be nominating this column for a Pulitzer Prize for you. It was one of the best things you've ever written, and something that everybody would get.
I am not following you. First of all, I didn't write the book, so I can't take credit for that. Secondly, you are a Jewish man, and this is about getting the Christian church involved in marriage. So what was so stunning to you about this?
When you talked about it, you revealed, your big reveals were things like how many children are born out of wedlock, and how destabilized the institution of marriage has become. You were really hard-hitting about how debilitating this is to society. So I forgive you your Christianity. It's a cute and quirky little thing. It's a little out of fashion now these days, but you're our daughter Faith. You've done a wonderful job. As you probably know, Judaism was the startup, Christianity is the IPO. So there were just a few of us Jews, a few 100,000, a few million, whatever it happens to be. And now there are billions of you Christians, not even mentioning Catholics, where there are billions more. So you guys have done a great job taking our deity, whose name I'm not allowed to say out loud because
we'll get banned again.
The taboo of Judaism, but it's our deity and our commandments, and you have projected them around the entire world to literally billions of people. So good on you. We're proud of you, and we're keeping an eye on you to keep your footsteps guided in the paths of righteousness, because you guys have this tendency, no matter how wonderful Christianity has proved to be, benevolent to the world and fantastic projection of Jewish values and the Jewish deity, you do have this tendency to go off on tangents. So we're watching you.
Well, I think what a lot of people could empathize with in my column is not, you don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be Jewish to appreciate the fact that with the nuclear family falling apart, crime is going up among, young men, boys. You've got this explosion of births outside of marriage, and you've got all these factors that are taking place, such as, you're not going to have as much money, for example. You're not going to be as well off if you have babies outside of marriage, and your relationship is not going to last as long as if, you were living with somebody and were married, and so all kinds of stuff.
Because you made this point in the column, and I just want you to clarify it. This is a profound point, and that is people who are living together out of wedlock as domestic partners have a much higher rate of breakup than people who are actually married. And I just want you to anchor that, the fact of that, because keeping there's a 70-year-long Harvard study showing, and all social psychologists know of this study and recognize the importance of this study, saying that social connection is the dominant determinant of personal happiness. And so if you get into and stay into a stable relationship, okay, you will be happier than if you go from relationship to relationship. And the book that you reviewed, Rachel, in your column revealed the fact that people who got married ended up staying together far more than people who simply lived together.
And they also have better sex. They have report better romantic lives. So all this evidence is there. It's been there for many years. And
Right.
And what was shocking to me, because I'm no young spring chicken either, is it just keeps getting worse. Like, we were hearing about all these problems back in the 1990s, and now looking at 2021, and they've just gotten far worse. And just so you guys know, the name of the book is Endgame, and the authors are J.P. DeGance, who's Catholic, and John Van Epp, who is Protestant. And they've both had immense success working with churches around the country. And they've been able to improve by decreasing the divorce rate from 20 to 24%, where they've gone in with these efforts, because they said that, the problem with most churches is they're focusing on things like youth, and they're spending all this money on their youth programs. But does that actually keep people in church? And what does that do for marriages? And, they're ignoring all these singles, because there's all these singles out there that are in relationships and cohabitating. And so that all falls into this area. And so, until churches step up to the plate here, you're going to see people falling away from church. And as we know, when you go to church, you're going to have higher rates of marriage, and marriages, sticking together, and children born within the marriage, and less of these adverse family events, which is where there is some kind of abuse or trauma in a family, and it affects the kids poorly. And that's when you see CPS jumping in and taking the kids away. These are happening in these single parent types of families.
And if I could just point something out here, I haven't read the book, I just read your column, but it was awesome. They're not being judgmental, they're being factual. And they're not basically saying, sinful, bad, whatever. They're simply talking about what brings about better outcomes, happier outcomes in the lives of people. And they are, so far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, they're reaching out to the better angels of the church's nature to say, don't be shy about promoting the values that work to make people happier, healthier, richer, and more fulfilled, okay, just because they're out of fashion. And so the fact that these two gentlemen, the Catholic and the Protestant, are spreading the gospel of traditional values back to the churches, they deserve enormous credit, and you deserve enormous credit for bringing it to the world.
Well, and I deserve credit for taking on an issue that a lot of people don't dare to take on. If you try to promote the traditional family today, you get attacked. And, honestly, I'm not doing anything to stop non-traditional families from existing. I'm not doing anything to them. All I'm doing is I'm reporting some facts. But, there's going to be those people out there that attack me, and I'll end up on Right Wing Watch and all that. So moving on, though, to Ralph's more timely column.
Rachel, you've been on Right Wing Watch for a long, long time. you are one of the most you're one of the most influential, one of the most thoughtful, and one of the most delightful exponents of conservative philosophy and conservative values out there. Don't think that the left hasn't noticed you. Okay, if they haven't gone after you yet, trust me, they will.
Oh, there's about, I think, 4 articles about me on Right Wing Watch. I mean, I might have a small presence on there, but I'm on there.
Well, I'm for your own interest. I'm waiting for the day when they declare you public enemy number 1, because in my experience in 40 years of politics, you are known by your enemies. And so if Right Wing Watch will do you the great favor of branding you public enemy number 1, you're made.
And I've had pedophiles come after me for articles I've written, and I thought that was like the best badge of honor you could get. Okay, so moving on to your wonderful.
That's close. The best badge of honor is probably if the Scientologists come after you, but let's not get into that.
So you wrote about the Youngkin race in Virginia, and yes, you had some interesting insights. So let's hear what they were.
Look, I'm from Maryland. I'm from the other side of the Potomac River, so I don't follow local politics that much. But what really shocked me was what's happening, and I've been in politics for 40 years, not as a swamp dweller, but as a swamp fox. So it's very, very hard to shock me. I've seen it all. And the fact is that the Democrats, with their proposal in the Senate, leading Democrats to tax unrealized capital gains, this was before the election, shortly before the election, were taking a page right out of the Communist Manifesto, attempting to confiscate people's property. I was like, hey, 30 years ago on December 26th or 25th, depending upon what time zone you're in, the Soviet Union lowered the hammer and sickle for the last time and dissolved itself. And I thought we had won the Cold War, the war on communism.
And explain for everybody who doesn't know, they want to tax people's stock who are wealthy, the 800 wealthiest people in the United States. And that's not even with selling stocks or an action like that. If
you own $1 billion worth of stock, they wanted to take away up to 20 or even 28% of your ownership of that stock, assuming you have a very low basis. They wanted to confiscate something like a quarter of your wealth a year under the theory of taxing unrealized capital gains. Okay, I quoted in my Newsmax article, which was brilliant, if I may say so, Ralph Benko, Newsmax. No, I'm sorry, this particular article was at the Freedomist. Okay, I quoted directly from the Communist Manifesto, which I have the authority to do since I'm the co-author of the Capitalist Manifesto, showing this wacko proposal was a page toward right from the Communist Manifesto, and nobody blinked. Nobody pointed this out except for me. And so I said,
it was brilliant, Ralph. I wouldn't have thought of that.
I don't think that, I can't speak as a sort of manager whether Youngkin will be good, bad, or mediocre. But it's so important to send a message to all of the Democratic elected officials from red and purple states that we will not tolerate the Democratic Party taking pages from the Communist Manifesto. Okay, and the way to send them a really hard message was to vote for Youngkin and against McAuliffe, who is not a communist, but you know what? He's a party regular who will toe the party line. If they unelected him, then all of a sudden, all of these elected officials in the Democratic Party, many of whom were fine people, but they're party regulars, would maybe get the message that we will not tolerate enacting as legislation in the United States principles from the Communist Manifesto. And you know what happened right after I wrote that article?
A much more famous columnist ripped off your idea and wrote about it.
No, Youngkin won. and McAuliffe lost. So I take full credit for the election of Glenn Youngkin and the defeat of Terry McAuliffe in the Virginia gubernatorial election. So spread the word.
Well, I think you're good, Ralph, but I honestly don't think you would go that far. But what I do want to ask you is, because this is my concern, and maybe I'm just cynical and I've been in politics too long, but how do we know that this is not just a typical reaction after one party takes over the presidency and Congress, then, right in after that, midterm elections, whatever comes up, and the country always just goes back and elects the other party? Is that just what's going on, or are people really philosophically seeing how horrible this big government leftist monstrosity is?
There was for our gazillions of viewers, let me give them
millions. Don't brag.
Okay, millions of watchers here. I'm going to tease them that they should go to Newsmax next week, Monday or Tuesday. I submit it Monday, and they usually publish it Monday or Tuesday for my column there, because there was a famous Democratic senator from, I think it was South Carolina, not senator, Democratic congressman from South Carolina, who was famous above all for one of his aphorisms, which he repeated many, many times on the floor of the House. There is no education in the second kick of a mule. And so, look, in 2020, the Democrats elected the most conservative of these 17 different wackos who were running for the nomination for president. They rejected Bernie Sanders, the socialist. They rejected Liz Warren, the progressive. They rejected Andrew Yang, the universal basic income guy. They rejected all of those loony left people, what Teddy Roosevelt called the lunatic fringe, and nominated the least leftist of the candidates. And by the way, people are now writing in the Washington Post, Mr. Biden, you campaign as a pragmatic centrist, and whatever happened to that guy? Can we now you're dancing with the left? Can we bring back the guy you campaigned as before it's too late? Okay. And the fact is, it may be too late, but I have coined the phrase, which will appear in Newsmax next week. The education is in the third kick of the mule and the fourth kick of the mule. So what we're going to see here is, since the Democrats look, the progressives would make a lemming blush. And they're saying they're interpreting these results, which are clearly that the Democratic Party has moved too far left, as we haven't moved far enough left, fast enough left. Okay, it's preposterous. So Youngkin came out for free enterprise, for prosperity, for things that really work. And he also came out for parental rights and education. Good on Glenn Youngkin. I'm not imputing this to you, Rachel, but Youngkin, you heard it here first, Youngkin for president 2024. I know you're a Brnovich for president 2024 kind of gal, and I love that about you. But
I don't know enough about Youngkin, okay? The left has tried to portray him as a total moderate who hates Trump, but they always lie. So I don't know what to think. But if he really is sufficiently principled conservative, okay, I might be interested in him. But, honestly, there's Brnovich, there's DeSantis himself, and what about Trump? Trump might decide.
Governor death sentence. You mispronounced it. Governor death sentence. But okay, I get it. I get what you. And there's Ted Cruz, the incarnation of the manifestation of evil in the modern world. We have a lot.
That is blasphemy. I love Ted Cruz. He's one of the best of the best.
We have a lot of satanic figures to choose among. But if you can pry yourself away from your sympathy for the devil here acknowledgement to the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger. Please allow me to introduce myself. Long enough, you might see that Glenn Youngkin is the angelic conservative who will bring us prosperity and dignity. And he is suave, and he showed us the way to go in 2021. And I am very, very hopeful that not only will we create a route, a 40 to 60 member flip in the House in 2022, but according to the #1 analyst among the Democrats, we're going to flip 7 seats in the Senate in 2024, and with the help of my darling Kirsten Sinema, your senator, and my darling, and with my hero Joe Manchin. If we flip 1 seat in the Senate in 2022, which I expect we will, if we flip another 7 in 2024,
and by the way, that 2022 seat you're referring to is Brnovich beating Kelly, right?
Right.
Okay.
Brnovich, bring it on. Hey, Mark Brnovich is a great man, and the fact that he turns to you, Rachel, on a regular basis for advice is.
I wouldn't go quite that far to say he's asking me for advice, but
okay, fine.
I can talk to him a lot.
The fact that you are Mark Brnovich's Svengali, whispering in his ear, telling him what to do, is just one more reason to bring it on for Mark Brnovich. He's magnificent. He is a jewel of the party and of the Republic. So keep guiding his footsteps in the paths of righteousness, because he is the man of the hour. And Rachel, you are the woman.
He's wonderful, but I don't think I really am an advisor. All right. I mean, we just chat about stuff, and I get quotes from him for articles, and that's not really like I'm not guiding him. He's doing a really good job on his own.
He is doing a really good job on his own. But the fact that he checks in with you as the bellwether of the conservative movement in Arizona speaks very well of his judgment.
I don't even think that's it. I've just been friends with him for over 20 years when we had offices next to each other, and I used to play pranks on him by putting a bunch of bananas behind his desk and letting him sit until he finally smelled them.
Yeah, that's the way politics should be played. So the point is, we are on track. The Republican, as my friend Grover Norquist likes to say, there are 2 parties in the United States: the evil party, that's the donks, and the stupid party, that's the pachyderms. But we're getting some extraordinarily bright pachyderms going with Brnovich and with Youngkin, and a handful of more. So I'm beginning to get more optimistic that the Republican Party is going to return to its roots of dignity, justice, and liberty, and ecology. And by the way, don't let the left fool you with this COPs 26 stuff. Okay, America has done better than any other country in the world in reducing its CO2 emissions. I'm not sure that's really a problem, but we've done better. And so the fact is that the Republicans, notwithstanding the fact that there's the stupid party, have produced some genius candidates and genius officials like Mark Brnovich and like Glenn Youngkin. And so I think there's hope. I think this is working.
Well, and we could probably wrap it up, but I have one more thing I want to ask you about. The Democrats keep pointing out that Youngkin did not do any campaigning with Trump, and he's distancing himself from Trump. And my opinion on that is this: okay, fine. If maybe some of these Republicans running in tough districts don't want to mention Trump for that reason, that's understandable. But I don't think that we're seeing some massive reaction against Trump. The left, what they do is they take some regular principled conservative who's having a lot of success, and they bash him constantly over tiny little things. You know, with Trump, it was bashing him over his exaggerations or, more bombastic things that he would say over Twitter. That's what they did. They brutalized him over that. They forced him out of office, whether you believe that he did it, they did it illegally or not. And
wait a minute. They stole the election fair and square.
You're going to get us banned again, because that's why we got banned last time. So anyway, what they do is they rip down somebody who has strong, principled, conservative views like Trump, and then somebody else rises in their place who has the exact same conservative views as Trump, like Ron DeSantis, for example. And so what's this whole purpose to tear this person down? It's not because they were some evil Stalin lover, Nazi lover, whatever. It's because they picked at little things to make them look evil. And then some other person who has the exact same views comes along and gets to replace them. Do you not agree, though? Is this not a pattern, and this is what we're seeing with Trump?
I'm trying to remember. My Twitter feed hasn't had anything by Trump in like a year. So I've kind of lost track. Who's Trump again? I've kind of lost the thread. There was a guy named Donald Trump. He was a reality TV star for a little while.
I do admit that getting banned from Twitter is having a huge effect on a lot of people. And I don't know what we're going to do about it, but everybody keeps saying, oh, we should just, get off of Twitter and Facebook because they're so ridiculous. Well, guess what happens? Look what happens when Trump got banned from Twitter. Nobody hears from him anymore. So,
it's so people. Don't you love it? You don't have to fire up your Twitter account in the morning to see what kind of psychotic pronouncement is coming out of the White House. It's very peaceful. And so I give Jack Dorsey tremendous credit for having banned Trump from Twitter.
Trump's Twitter feed was the first thing I went to every morning. He was so entertaining. Now, all you have coming out of the White House is what latest ridiculous, pathetic, sick thing Biden has done, whether he's falling asleep, whether he's slurring his words, whether he's saying absolutely ridiculous things that make no sense, repeating fake stories about the Amtrak train conductor. I mean, this is just a train wreck of a president.
I get that. I get your perspective, Rachel, and I respect your perspective. I do not share your perspective. I have been writing columns for over a year now, since before Biden actually declared for the presidency, at Newsmax, the farthest right of the legitimate media. And they have been very kind to me, letting me talk about why I think I like Joe Biden. And this is what I wish he would do. Unfortunately, I have now achieved a suspicion that someone in the West Wing is intercepting my columns, telling Joe Biden what to do so he can become the greatest president since FDR.
You better start feeling some guilt there then, because you're getting all this free helpful advice from the right.
I listen, I love America. I am a total America-phile. Since I love America, I want Joe Biden to succeed in making us secure, safe, and prosperous and dignified. But somehow, Rachel, and I want you to research this before our next podcast, somebody has been intercepting my columns. I do not believe that Joe Biden has been reading my columns where I have been assiduously guiding his steps in the paths of righteousness. And so he keeps going wrong. If he would only listen to me, Rachel Alexander, we would make a Democrat out of you.
So you're actually admitting it's hopeless. All your columns are so hopeful, talking about how he voted for the tax rate cuts in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And you keep thinking he's going to turn out to be like that, and you're finally admitting he's not.
No, I admit no such thing. Somebody in the West Wing is intercepting my columns and preventing Joe Biden from getting woke from the center-right conservative perspective that you and I represent. So if you could just pop into Washington, I'll pick you up at Reagan National Airport. I will escort you into the White House. I will set you free.
They call the Secret Service on me or something. Are you kidding me?
I will escort you into the West Wing, and you can tell President Biden that he should be listening to us, not those people.
Well, you, not me, because I'm not going to give that guy any helpful advice. He ain't getting any help from me. It'd be totally misleading advice if he got it from me.
Okay, you got it. You got it, Rachel Alexander. You have the last word. You are the cat's pajamas.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching us, and catch up with us next week. I think I've got a pretty cool column to discuss too next week.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. Okay. Rachel Alexander, Townhall, Ralph Benko, Newsmax. We'll see you there.